Okay, so let's jump right into one of the most powerful and honestly kind of unsettling ideas out there, the black swan. It's a concept from the brilliant writer Nassim Nicholas Taleb, and it's something that will completely flip how you think about the future and especially about risk. And it all really boils down to this one simple question. What if the biggest, most world-changing risks are the ones we literally can't see coming? You know, the ones that no expert, no fancy model, no looking at the past can ever prepare us for? That's the wild territory we're getting into today. So, first things first, we need to get super clear on what we're actually talking about. Let's break down the anatomy of a real black swan event. All right, so for something to be a true black swan, it's got to have three key ingredients. First off, it's a total outlier. Nothing in the past would ever suggest it could happen. Second, its impact is just massive, a complete game changer. We're talking about things like the 2008 financial crisis or the rise of the internet. But here's the third part, and this is the real kicker, the big psychological twist. After it happens, we all look back and tell ourselves, oh, of course, we should have seen that coming. We invent these neat stories because our brains just hate the idea of huge, random chaos. Now, to really wrap your head around this, Taleb takes us to a place he calls Extremistan. And understanding this place is absolutely crucial because it explains why our gut feelings, our intuition about risk, can be so dangerously wrong. So Taleb basically says our reality is split in two. On one side, you've got Mediocristan. This is the predictable world of averages. Think about human height, right? If you get 1,000 people in a room and then add the tallest person on Earth, the average height barely changes. It's all neat and tidy and fits on a bell curve. But then you've got Extremistan. This is the wild west of things like the stock market or book sales. In this world, a single event, one Jeff Bezos, one catastrophic market crash, can completely change the entire picture. The average means nothing here. It's the extremes that run the whole show. And that right there is this central problem. All the standard tools we use in finance, all those models based on the bell curve, they were built for the tame world of Mediocristan. When you try to use them in the chaotic world of Extremistan, they don't just fail a little, they fail spectacularly. And worse, they give us this incredibly dangerous illusion that we're safe. And make no mistake, this isn't just some abstract academic idea. The history of the modern world, especially finance, is basically a graveyard of broken models and huge catastrophic surprises. Just take a look. Back in '87, you had the Black Monday crash, which happened so fast our models were completely useless. Then in '98, there was the collapse of long-term capital management. I mean, this was a fund run by actual Nobel Prize winners, whose models said a collapse was pretty much impossible. And then, of course, 2008, when the whole global system almost went down because the models had no idea how dangerously connected everything had become. You know, this quote from the folks at LTCM just says it all. They calculated that the odds of what happened to them were something you might see once in the entire lifetime of the universe. That's not just getting it wrong. That's a level of certainty that is, by itself, the biggest risk of all. So how can we be so smart, yet so incredibly blind? Well, Taleb has this perfect, if a little dark, story to explain our big collective blind spot. He calls it the Thanksgiving turkey problem. Okay, I want you to just imagine for a second that you're a turkey, and life is great. On your very first day, a nice human comes along and gives you some delicious food. Your turkey brain lugs its first data point. Humans are friendly, they're providers. Okay, now fast forward to day 100. Every single day, like clockwork, you've been fed. The evidence is just overwhelming now. Your statistical model of the world is getting stronger and stronger. Your confidence in the goodness of humans, it's soaring. And now it's day 1,000. 1,000 straight days of free food and good vibes. From your point of view, based on all the data you've ever collected, your predictive model of the world is perfect. You feel totally safe. In fact, you have probably never, ever felt safer in your entire life. And then comes day 1,001, Thanksgiving. And for the turkey, this is a catastrophic black swan, a complete shock that makes its entire life's worth of data totally meaningless. But for the butcher, well, it was just another day at the office. It was always part of the plan. So here's the crucial point. The moment of the turkey's maximum safety was actually its point of maximum danger. And that is such a powerful lesson. Long stretches of calm and stability don't mean things are safe. A lot of the time, they're just hiding risks under the surface, making the system more and more fragile, so the eventual shock is even worse. Okay, so if predicting these massive events is a waste of time, are we just helpless? Are we doomed? Not at all. This is where we get to the solution. Taleb says we need to stop trying to build a better crystal ball to predict the future. Instead, we need to focus on building a better boat, one that simply doesn't sink when that storm we never saw coming finally hits. And the name he has for this better boat is antifragility. Now, this idea goes way beyond just being tough or resilient. Think about it. Something that's robust gets hit by a shock and stays the same. But something that's antifragile, it gets hit by a shock and actually gets stronger because of it. It literally feeds on chaos, stress, and volatility. So how do we actually build things this way? Well, there are a few key strategies. First, you choose redundancy over being super efficient. You want some slack in the system. Second, you use very little debt, very little leverage, so that a surprise hit doesn't just wipe you out. Third, you look for what he calls convex or barbell strategies. It's simple. Put most of your stuff in something incredibly safe, but then take a tiny portion and make a bunch of small, high-risk bets. That way, your downside is small and capped, but your upside is potentially unlimited. And finally, and this might be the most important one, you practice what he calls epistemic humility, which is really just a fancy way of saying you have to constantly and humbly admit how much you don't know. And all of that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. When you look around at our world today, at our finances, our technology, our society, what is the future black swan that we are all confidently feeding, day after day, just like that turkey, completely clueless about the surprise that's waiting right around the corner?